Well, hello again. What do you say we go out and mess around with the gas tank a little bit and find out exactly, if any, how much gas is in there. Now, I'm not going to stay long. It's just pretty cool out here. Our temperature last night, believe it or not, our temperature last night got down to 28 degrees. I couldn't believe it. In April. Oh. Before we start, let's cover a little bit of ground from our last video. I must have said something that you all, and so many of you, interpreted wrong. I don't know. I was surprised that, our subscribers would think I would use the old gas in this car and try to start the engine with that old gas. Let's go back to my first video. I've been working on cars for 50 years. I know you don't do that. All the things you guys all laid out there as to why I shouldn't use the gas and all this other stuff, I know all that, okay? It turns the varnish, it gums up the carburetor, does all sorts of things. I had no intention of even coming close to using that gas that's in the tank. All right, so, again, give me a little credit, okay? I've been working on these things a long, long time. And as far as taking a container of gasoline, setting it somewhere, and then running a hose directly into the carburetor to get the car driven over to the garage and all this other sort of thing, no. Not going to happen. We're going to do this the right way. We're going to try to get this tank cleaned out, get it to where it's supposed to be. If I can't clean the tank out, then I'm going to buy another one, and I'm going to stick it up in there. So right now, with that being said, let's get this old gas out of there that you guys thought I was going to use. Oh, I'm just really disappointed in you all that you thought I was going to do that. It's been probably 50 years since I even siphoned gas, to tell you the truth, so I didn't need anything expensive to get that old nasty gas out of there, so I went down to Walmart and picked this $3 deal up. Oh, by the way, someone else had asked me, I can't remember who it was now, someone said, what did you use to seal your transmission leak in your wife's Dodge van? I used bars stop leak for transmissions. It was only $3.88, did the job, worked perfectly. At least for now. So let's go ahead and squeeze this hose and see if we can get some gas out of here. It's probably going to take a while. I'm going to have to fish the line around down there until there may not be hardly any gas at all in this tank. I don't know. Well, I'm happy to report that no gas came out of that tank. There must have been just a little bit down at the bottom, enough to get the tip of that wire wet that I had stuck down in there in the last video. This time, barely the tip of the clear hose got wet, and I went ahead and cleaned out around it a little bit, around the tank, down in that area, and went ahead and vacuumed it out. And most of the dirt, apparently, that I was getting on the end of that wire did not come from the tank. Apparently, it was mud wasp or dirt dauber, as one of the Texas boys told me. That's what they say down Texas. We say dirt dauber too, but I always use the term mud wasp. But anyway, the mud wasp nest apparently got down into the neck of the tube, maybe 6 inches down in there or something, and that's probably why they stuffed that rag in there instead of going out and buying a gas cap like they should have. Anyway, I stuck the nozzle down the vacuum cleaner, and I sucked out any kind of dirt that was down there quite a ways. No gas again came up. However, there is a drain plug in the bottom of the gas tank on the driver's side down near the bottom. And tomorrow or the next day, whenever it gets warm enough, it's freezing out here right now. I'm tired of freezing. I'm not going to go down there and lay on that cold ground and come down with pneumonia. At my age, that's the last thing I need. I also found that this little thing right here was laying down inside. I need to glue that in place. I'm not sure if it goes there or there, but probably up here. But right now I've just got it sitting there so it doesn't get lost. And I've still got to put maybe some rubber stops up here, which I might have. I don't know. And that evens up that gas tank cover so it doesn't stick down in anymore. Well, that's one less issue I'm concerned about. Now, I've already stated early on that I don't intend to spend a fortune restoring this car. It's not going to be a show car. It's going to be a driver and something I can piddle with and play with over, a couple of years, depending on how long I live. Just a little bit at a time, a little bit here, a little bit there. That's all it's going to be. Something to while away my hours and have fun. So there's a cap that goes over the top of this key thing for the trunk. and it was riveted on with a couple of rivets. Let me see if I can get down in there and let you see that. The rivets were just stuck on through there and then pounded over a little bit on the other side, but these are holes there now, so the whole cap is missing. Now, to buy this entire thing with the cap, it's a spring-loaded cap that lifts up like this. So you lift it up, so protects the key, and then you. Anyway, they want over $100 for that thing on eBay or anywhere else you go. Some guys wanted 150 bucks. I'm not spending 150 bucks on that. No way. I'd leave it like that before I'd spend 150. Anyway, I started looking through the inside of the car the other day, and I lifted up the console. The console has a lid that lifts up. This car, believe it or not, does not have a glove compartment. Can you believe that? That was surprising to me. Apparently they figured the console would be good enough. But anyway, what did I find in the console but the lid? Look at there. Fits just like that. That's what it'll look like once I get it on. Now apparently it came off. They just, fortunately for me, they threw it in the console. Now there's the two rivets. Let me get over here where we can see a little better. There's your two rivets that go through. A little rusty. I'm going to go ahead and clean them up. And there's a spring right here. And the way this thing works is it springs open like that. And as you can see, it's been bent. Let me see if I can get that up there. Boy, that thing is a pretty tight spring, actually. It's been bent. See it? And I'm going to go ahead and clean up those rivets. I'm going to straighten out that bend and see if I can't get the whole thing back in here. And I'm going to glue it in. I'm not going to be pounding on it with a hammer, just because they're rivets. I'm going to cement it in with a good bunch of cement down here, which will be on the back side of this. When I was at Walmart today, I found some really good JB Weld kind of stuff. It's a Bondo. It's not really, it's a clear, almost like a super glue type of thing. And they said it's capable of withstanding 3,500 pounds of weight on it. Well, that ought to take care of this little lid, So we'll see how that goes. If not, I'll go back to the old JB standard weld and then go ahead and glue it in. But whatever I do, it'll look better than it does now, and it'll be protected from rain and weather and all that sort of thing, and it'll look pretty neat. I just thought I'd show you that. Big savings, over $150 or thereabouts. Well, it's the next day, and I got to tell you, it has warmed up considerably. The last of our cold weather is finally gone. From here throughout the foreseeable future, on the weather channel for Arkansas here, it's going to be in the middle 60s to middle 70s, and I'm not complaining. Matter of fact, a couple of days are going to be in the lower 80s. Oh, can't wait. But today, what we're going to, I'm working on an amplifier on our jukebox, waiting for tubes to come in. They haven't come in, so I might as well use my time constructively, okay? We're going to go ahead and pull the plug on the gas tank. We're going to drain what little gas is probably in there, and hopefully there won't be any mud comes out. So there's a big old plug, pretty good sized plug. It's about that big on the driver's side of the tank, about that far up from the bottom. I'm surprised it's not on the very bottom, but I'll jack the other side of the car up a little bit, kind of lean it a little bit more this way. This carport leans pretty heavily, or slanted pretty heavily, so the water runs off. A lot of water in Arkansas. We can't have a bunch of water on a flat surface running into the house, so they always put the concrete at a pretty good angle here years ago, especially in the 60s. But before we do any of that, I am working on, this morning, I wanted to get out of the house for a while. I was penned up with all that cold. It was driving me crazy. I'm working on this right here, our little top to our lock. And I got it pretty much in there. What I did was I took out those rivets, and I'm going to replace them with those screws. But right now it's pretty loose. I'm going to loosen it up even more. And we are going to use something, I told you about it in yesterday's video. This is called JB Weld Super Weld. Professional grade. It's supposed to set up in 10 seconds, 24 hours to fully cure. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen the screws now. They know the screws will work on this thing. And I'm going to go ahead and loosen the screws up and pull this thing back a ways, a little bit more than it is. And put a bunch of super glue down in there, or that JB Weld stuff, and then go ahead and hold the cap up a little bit and screw the screws in a little tighter and get it lined up real good. I'm not going to slop the glue in. I'm just going to try to be real neat. It's supposed to hold 3,500 pounds. We're going to find out. And then when I'm done, after it cures probably tomorrow, I'll take some of that glue and I'll put it over the top of the heads of the screws so they won't rust. It'll help protect it. Last but not least, after I get the trunk latch thing glued in and everything's good to go, and we get the tank drained out, everything's good to go as best I can. By the way, if a whole bunch of mud comes out of that tank, the tank's going to have to be pulled. I've done it before, not a problem. It'll just take time. You got to be real careful. And once we get all that done, I'm going to power wash the engine. Tomorrow, if everything goes good, everything goes as planned, and tomorrow we'll pull the spark plugs. Well, that takes care of that. She's in pretty good shape for the shape she's in. I'm happy about that. You know, I'm not sure, but it seems to me there should be a rubber gasket all the way around this thing that the paint shop probably never replaced when they did the paint job. I'm going to have to look into that, but I'm almost certain there's got to be some kind of base rubber gasket around there of some kind. Well, I took an old bucket and cut it down a little bit so it would fit under the car, and then I have it jacked up on the other side so it's more of a downward angle toward us. Right there in the bottom of the gas tank, look at the size of that drain plug right there. Pretty good plug, huh? What I'm going to do is I'm going to clean around it with a wire brush best I can, and then we're just going to unscrew it and hope for the best. Well, as expected, not a drop of anything came out of there, and this thing here has got quite a bit of rust in it. We'll take a look at it in the sun here in a little while, but right now what I'm going to do is take that plastic hose I tried to drain this tank with. I'm going to stick it down in there from here and see what happens. You might hear a bunch of truck noise going on in the background during this video. They're repaving our road here. They've been at it since this road goes down about 1.5 miles. They're going to repave the entire thing. I don't know what kind of paving, but we'll know when they get up to our house. Well, that's how much rust was in the plug, not as much as I expected. I'll dig some of that out later with my pocket knife, but right now let's get that tube in the tank. I'm really curious to see what we find here. If I can even get the hose in the tank, that is. Yeah, there we go. Just stick it down in there. Tank sounds totally empty. I'm looking more for rust and mud than anything else. Alright, let's take her out. See what happens. Well, there is a little bit of gas down in there. Let's take a look at it out here. Oh. Oh yeah, yeah. Let me back up here. Yeah, we scooped up there's a bunch of nasty old gas down in there. Rust filled. It's just at the bottom, probably no more than 1/2 inch or maybe 1 inch of gas in there, that's it. Alright, you know what that means, don't you? That means the whole tank's going to have to come down. And that's how much rust was in our plug, you know, which was to be expected. Oh well. We're going to have to make a momentous decision here in a few minutes. Okay guys, it is time to prep the old engine compartment to get ready for power washing. The first thing I'm going to do is get rid of some of the dirt. Loosen it up with this Clorox cleaner stuff. It does a great job of loosening stuff up. And it's just a matter of spraying the entire thing. And when the time comes, it should just wash right off. And then for the engine itself, I've got some gunk spray cleaner. I covered up the main parts of the motor. This right here, just degreaser, gunk degreaser, heavy duty gel. Just put it on with the engine cold. Years ago we used to put it on with the engine warm, but we're not going to do that here. It says on the bottle on this one, put it on with the engine cold. So that's what we're going to do. Anyway, it'll be a while. I'm just going to go ahead and spray and clean, spray and clean. And then I'm going to spray the motor down. Once the motor gets all sprayed down, I'm going to close the hood. We're going to let it sit for about, maybe 15-20 minutes. Then we're going to come out. We're going to give it the old blast. By the way, I didn't cover everything. I covered the coil, the distributor. I took the cap off the distributor and covered that up and covered the carburetor. And I'll just stay away from the other parts like the alternator and the and down here where the power steering pump is and stuff like that. I'll pretty much stay away. You can do the outside, just don't go too near where the bearings are, stuff like that. But you know, just take your time. It's not something you got to go crazy on. You know, it'll get nice and clean. She's all sprayed down. It is coffee time, folks. I'll be back in about 20 minutes. Well, I got my old coffee, came back out. I can't resist this sunshine. Boy, this is really nice out here. So we'll go ahead and make our momentous decision right now while the engine's still soaking. You know, when I was out looking for a classic car, I expected to pay anywhere from $7,500 to $8,500. That was going to be my maximum. But of course, little did I know at that time was, you know, that really, you know, I was expecting to get a pretty nice car for that kind of money. Well, I was out in left field on that idea. I just got real lucky with this one, which only cost me $4,000. So I did not expect that once I started looking for cars. Matter of fact, there was one guy that had a Thunderbird. He wanted $500,000 for it. Are you kidding? I'll tell you what, somebody comes along and offers me $500,000 for this one, it's gone. Sometimes I think these guys put these cars up on the internet and put an enormous price on them just so they can show them off. I don't think they actually expect anybody to give them, you know, 80, 90, 100,000, 200,000, $500,000 for those cars. But of course, I suppose if someone comes along, they'd be happy to sell it for that kind of money. So anyway, that gives me, I bought this for $4,000, and I expected to pay $75,000 to $85,000. So we'll just take it in the middle, say $8,000. So as far as I'm concerned, I saved $4,000. Consider it a savings if you want. It was just under budget, okay? So that means I have a little bit of extra money now to spend on repairing the car and getting it roadworthy and looking halfway decent, but that doesn't mean I'm going to go crazy. No. So what I'm going to do, I think of that $4,000 that I didn't have to spend on the car, I think I can take $2,500 of it, maybe a little less. That'll be our budget for repairing this thing. And that includes, I'll tell you what, let me tell you some of the high price items. I can get brand new seat covers for this thing. Front and rear, $500, and all I have to do is put them on myself, which I can do. You know, just cut the old ones off and just take my time, put the new ones on, get one of my grandsons to help us. I need rubber molding for the doors and the trunk. Got to make this thing waterproof. Matter of fact, my next expense is going to be a weather stripping seal for the trunk lid because it sticks out past the roof of the house and water is dripping down on it. I want that thing watertight. And we will need the 2 floorboards put in, and I will probably need a rim and a tire, and of course I'm probably going to wind up buying a new gas tank. Now all of that does not come to $2,500. It's quite a bit less actually, and it'll need shocks. I'm going to need to put 4 shocks on it all the way around, that sort of thing. So I don't know. I'm probably looking at right now about $1,600, $1,700. But this is going to be done over a period of time. You know, it's not going to be done tomorrow. You know, we take our time, we do it, and a little bit here, a little bit there. Maybe I can find some good bargains along the way. A couple of missing pieces of chrome I got. There is a car show coming up on the 12th. It's the week of the 12th of June. I cannot wait. It's up in a place called Pettigene Park, and there's going to be it's an old vintage car swap meet. I'm going to go up there with a buddy of mine. We're going to look around and see what we've got. So anyway, that's the plan. $2,500, $100 budget that we will dribble along. I'm going to take the radio out and the clock out of this thing, try to fix it myself, which I think I can. Plus, I'm working on a deal on that radio with our good buddy and my electronics mentor, Brendan, up in Detroit. So there's a lot of things to be done, you know, and a lot of things will... Well, once I get it in the garage. Once I get it in the garage, I can do a lot more. And once the heat hits, it's going to be kind of rough out here working. So a few more minutes, we'll go ahead and power wash the engine. By the way, when that Pettigene car show gets here, I'll go ahead and take my camera up there and I'll take you all with me. Let you look around and see what we have in car shows around here once a year at least. There's a lot more, but that's the big one. This is one of the skirts. One of our good subscribers asked me about the other skirts down in there. But the skirts are in very good condition. They're not rusted or anything else. They look good. So they'll go on also. But right now, I gotta make sure I got the keys in my pocket. Yes, I do. Go ahead. And this thing again is holding well. So far, we've had a good day here. All right, it's time. Let's do it to it. Crank this baby up and get hopping. Well, that's the end of round one. She looks pretty good. I'll be giving it a second go round here. I want to let it kind of drip off for a while. I'll come out, take another look at it. We're going to hit it a second time, just kind of more of a rinse than anything else. Well, that's it. Second rinse is done. She looks really good, I think. A whole lot better than it did anyway. So I'll let it drip down for maybe an hour, maybe two. Depends on how much energy I get. And then I'll come out and I'll soak out each of the cracks and crevices, that the sunk in places where the water is. And then we'll take a look at it again tomorrow. And if I missed any places, I'll clean them up. But I don't think I missed anything. I got it pretty good. I'm getting ready to pull the spark plugs out of each of the cylinders. I want to see what they look like. And I also want to put some Marvel Mystery Oil down into each of the cylinders. But I didn't want to just take a funnel and pour it in. First of all, even a long skinny funnel would be very difficult to get in. It's not too bad on this side, but over here, you get toward the back there, it's pretty hard to get down in there. And there's another reason that I prefer not to use a funnel, but I do want to get the Marvel Mystery Oil down into the cylinder and hopefully on the cylinder walls, because it's going to be a while before we start this car up, and I don't want any rust any more than it probably already has to develop in the cylinder walls. So let me show you what we're going to do. Now the pistons on this car are at an angle as I look at them, okay? Yeah, let me see. We're round like this, and then of course we have our little spark plug hole here. And the thing is sitting at an angle like this, instead of flat. Now if we're sitting flat, it wouldn't be a problem. Now keep in mind the cylinder walls go down, and the whole thing is at an angle because this is a V8 engine, all right? And if I just pour mystery oil down in the spark plug hole, what's going to happen is I'll get, all the oil will settle to the bottom down here like that. And that's not what I'm looking for. I want the oil to go squirt. I want to squirt it all the way. I'm going to take the piston down to the bottom first of all, and I can do that with my ratchet on the crankshaft nut on the front. And I want to be able to get the mystery oil squirted all the way around. Now, what is Marvel Mystery Oil? It's this stuff right here, Marvel Mystery Oil. I got lucky. I picked up a couple of them the other day, a couple of 16-ounce bottles for $7. I thought that was a good deal. But anyway, I need to get that oil all up around here like this. Now, how do I do that? I don't want to just pour it in, Well, I came up with a brilliant idea. I've been using this Clorox cleaner bleach for a lot of things. And, of course, I wound up with an empty bottle. And I got thinking, I said, an empty bottle, a good squirt empty bottle, should come in handy for something. And sure enough, all of a sudden I needed one, and here's why. This is I thought if I could remove this front cap right here, and there might be a nozzle sticking out that I could hook a clear vinyl tube to, and this mystery oil stuff, this stuff is pretty darn thin. Look how easy it pours around in that jar there. It's not like thick heavy oil. They call it oil, but it's something else. And I don't know what it is. That's why they call it a mystery oil. Anyway, the whole idea was, if I could get this front cap off, there might be a spout sticking out, and I might be able to get that spout on a clear vinyl tube and use this bottle. I could put the mystery oil in this bottle and then just squirt it down in there and move the tube, around in kind of a circle as I'm squirting, and that would get the oil all on the cylinder wall all the way around. Yeah, a lot of it would settle at the bottom right here. There's no doubt about that. But it would, you know, the tube, let me get some clarity here. The tube would enable it to, you know, squirt, squirt, squirt all the way up around like that. So I could kind of rotate the tube around inside here a little bit as best I could, you know. So I took this off, and this is what I got. I got this right here. There was a longer spout sticking out right here, stuck out to about here, and it had a big large flange on the end with really tiny holes. I said, well, that's not going to work. So I took my little moto tool with a cutting wheel and I whacked that part off, leaving this little stub. And the idea was, if I had this little piece of 5/32 clear vinyl tubing sitting on my table out here. I had no idea where it came from. It just was there one day. It's just the way it is with me around here. And I said, geez, if that thing will fit inside there, up inside that thing, and I put some of that mystery oil in there, it might just squirt it out. Well, it did. As you can see, some of the red is still there. And unfortunately, it wasn't long enough. It was too short. So I went down. This is 5/32, remember, outside diameter, I think it is. And I went down to Lowe's, and I had to pick up 20 feet of this. I didn't like that. They no longer sell it by the foot around here. But this is 3/16 inside diameter, and this thing here fits right up in there. So I figured, what the heck, you know, if I could run this tube up inside about that far and run the other end in this bottle like so into that spout, and it should squirt it out and do the job. All I have to do is, you know, and lop off about, what, 2 feet of this. I don't even have to hardly bend over to do it in the engine. So let's put this whole idea together and see if it'll work. Well, she's working. Another brilliant idea that came to fruition. Look at there. Very cool, huh? It's gonna work. Well, here's our first plug, and as you can see, it's totally black. The plug, believe it or not, is in very good condition. It's just totally black. Now, what does that mean? There's no oil on it that I can see. Just black soot, black carbon. It means it was running too rich. There's actually several things that can cause this. If the plug is not hot enough, well, this is the standard 45 plug called for this car. And when it comes time to replace the plugs, this is an Autolite, which is a Ford product. Used to be anyway. I don't know who makes it now. Probably some Chinese outfit. But anyway, it's a number 45, and if I ever have to replace them, that's what I'll replace it with. But too much gas, you know. So let's take a look at what we have here. What can cause that? If your automatic choke is not working well, in other words, the heat riser pipe, or if it's an electric choke, it's not working well, and it keeps you, and it doesn't open up and enabling your carburetor to open up like this, it'll stay closed. And as long as that thing stays closed, it's sucking gas, gas, gas. And the engine's unable to burn at all, especially if you're idling. So here's the heat riser pipe on this one. I'm going to try it. I think there's an electric automatic choke I can get for this. I think it's a conversion kit. I'm going to check that out. Seems to me in my looking around the internet on this car, seems to me I ran into an electric conversion kit. Now this is your heat riser pipe, and it goes down and it hooks into the manifold, and as you can see down there, look at there, the hole that it fits in, there's nothing there. The heat riser pipe is over here someplace. Let me back up here. This was standard, I guess, when it was new. Let's take this baby up here, see if we can get it to come up. I can't even get it to come up, stupid thing. Anyway, it's a little copper pipe down in there. Let's see if we can see it. See the end of that copper pipe? Let me zoom in there. The end of that copper pipe has a ridge on it. You can see the ridge sticking out. And then it goes down to a skinnier portion. That's supposed to fit in that hole right there. And as the engine warms up, the heat comes up the heat riser pipe all the way up, and it comes over here, and it puts heat inside here through this pipe, enabling the spring to unwind. It's a bimetal spring in there. When it's cold, it goes one way. When it's warm, it goes the other. Bimetal means there's two layers, one bound to the other. Each one operates in a different temperature. And as it opens up, as your engine warms up and this opens up, this thing here is supposed to open up as well. And as the engine cools down, it's supposed to go the other direction, enabling you to start your engine when it's cold. Sucks more gas than air. But that's not been happening here. So, I don't know. And now the other alternative, of course, I'm certain that's what's causing the problem. The automatic choke hasn't been working on this thing. But there is another, too much carburetor. Could be too much carburation for this 390 engine, but I don't think so. I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and pull a couple more and see what they look like, and then we'll end this video. Well, that's it for now. These are the 3 plugs side by side that I took out. In order to get the rest of them out, I'm going to have a 3/8 universal. And I don't have one. You know, when you let your grandkids get into your toolbox, I had about 3 or 4 of those things. Now I have 0. Oh well, so tomorrow I will run downtown and get myself a little swivel. We used to call them swivel or universal, whatever you want to call it. And I'll put them on the end of these extensions, and I'll get the rest of the plugs out. But that's what we have so far. So until next time, one more thing. Let me go back to that heat rising pipe again. For those of you, who are unfamiliar with the older cars, the reason they call this a heat riser pipe is because it's connected down there to the exhaust manifold. Like I said, the old Chevy engines were the same way, and heat would rise up through the pipe. A heat riser pipe, get it? And then it would go into here, and there's a big flat coiled spring in there, and as the spring heated up, it would rotate counterclockwise and allow your carburetor to open up, and you'd get your even mixture of fuel and air. And when it got cold, of course, there'd be no heat coming through here, and the other spring that's, they're sandwiched one on top of another. It would then go back the other way and close it and get it ready for the next morning's start. Okay? That's the way it worked. Until next time, this is John. Oops, one more thing. As long as these things aren't all gooked up with oil and everything, it's just soot, and the elements and everything are all good, then they can be cleaned. We'll just go ahead and clean them up with lacquer thinner, give them a really nice brush, and save me from having to buy a new set.